My name is Barrington Edwards. I'm really happy to be your moderator. So I will be doing less talking today and more moderating. Right? I'm happy to have a few guests, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I think you'll be more adept at introducing yourself. So if you are here for the Comics and Technology panel, you are in the right place. You are also a part of the conversation, so we're going to have some time, as much time as possible, for your questions and your ideas. I'm really interested in that. Quickly, so you understand why I'm asking strange questions. I am a professor of illustration at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design. I'm a working illustrator and a working educator. Many of the classes I teach are technology-based. I teach digital illustration. I also teach digital illustration at BU. Ask me why I have 2 teaching jobs. And I think I said before that I have a dog who's really stubborn. And my dog is bougie. She likes really good food.
Sounds like that's why you have 2 jobs.
Right.
That's why, yeah. My wife likes sushi and my dog likes like boiled chicken. So,
You need 2 jobs for that.
like, huh?
You need 2 jobs for that.
I need a 3rd job for me so I can eat. All I get is coffee. So we're here. So that's my background, and but I'm passionate about technology and how it's used in lots of different ways, and I'm also passionate about comics, which might be obvious. Kagan just walked out, and Kagan and I really quickly. This is Kagan's brainchild and his baby. Kagan and I kind of came up with the idea for this after traveling and seeing comics at different places, and wow, we need something like this. Why don't we have something like this in Boston? You know, for black folks, people of color in Boston, you know, Boston's cool. There gotta be nerds in Boston. And now, look, we found you. Found you. Hello, nerds. All right. So I'm gonna start with introductions to my left. I'm gonna pretend that I don't know folks, even though I know some folks pretty well.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. My name is Jhair James. You can call me Jai. I am an illustrator, primarily digital, muralist, and designer. And I am very happy to be here and to be talking with and amongst you all. Barring connections aside, I will say he was my mentor and teacher for my entire high school career going into college. So a lot of what I do and what I know is owed to him. But back pivoting here, I definitely am so excited to talk about the integration and the concepts of technology in the arts world and how it's evolved and shifted and everything. So happy y'all are here and along for the ride.
Yeah. All right, guys, don't stop. Get it. My name is Tyrone Molly, otherwise known as Zerosnake. You guys call me Zerosnake or Zero, whatever makes you feel cool. So this is my graphic novel called Unrivaled. It's a Japanese manga style title. Some of you guys show support downstairs. I appreciate that. On top of that, I'm also an animator. I have a lot of experience doing a large amount of things from, working with voice actors, working with musicians. We said I've got some musicians here too. And everything really just comes hand in hand. Even if you are a traditional artist, that can be applied. And animation and comics came from the traditional art. So it's definitely a lot of fun. A lot of ways we can go from here. So I'm here to give some tips and whatnot. Oh yeah, also a muralist.
My name is Javier Cruz Winnik. I'm primarily an illustrator, but in order to help get my story out there, I decided to flex my writing chops, take the poetry I used to do when I was younger, take the songs that I used to write when I was younger, and try to figure out how to take that and bring it into the literature that I put forth. I'm a teacher as well. I've been teaching since 2005 in the after-school settings, and now finally have my own classroom up in Hudson, New York, and I teach kindergarten, pre-K kindergarten, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 7th and 8th graders. So I run the gamut of various students and experiences. But I'm also a muralist too. Did a mural out of...
We gotta make something together.
14th Street and 6th Avenue. I've got a mural down there at a wing spot, so that's pretty cool. But my whole purpose of creating art is to enjoy the stuff that I enjoy and create things that I don't get to see, and then help other people do the same. And that's helped me do my own book series called A Reason to Smile, which is about a little Puerto Rican girl from the city who's using her creativity and her imagination to help people find the bright side of their life. So that's what I want my imprint to be in the world. My legacy is that I make people smile with my work.
All right. I'm inspired already. I feel like applauding. See, you get better answers after you praise people with applause. Take notes. So in thinking about technology and how, you've already you already started bringing the conversation to some really interesting places, more interesting than I could even be ready for. And I do want to kind of circle back to things like mural and animations and books, because that's another avenue I think is really interesting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out a few categories, right? Just to kind of get you thinking and about these different ways that I've seen technology impact comics directly, right? And if you make comics, you already know this is why you're here. All right, so reading, making, printing, publishing, micropayments, social media marketing, funding. Those are all kind of categories that really directly impact the types of comics that are made today. So yeah, we're just having that little lens. Let's start with reading. And you could talk about reading from the point of view of a reader or your intention as a writer to the audience. How does technology impact the reader from your point of view?
Sure. It's you
Go
going in order?
We go in order?
I'll set it off.
See?
So,
The New Yorker said, I said it off.
so I have 4 books in my series, and part of the reason why I have those 4 books is because I've been able to utilize different technologies that we have nowadays that I did not have growing up. This computer, phone, camera, recorder. So one-stop shopping here, and I do a lot of it in there. So for my series, I start to I want things to look real, even though they're cartoony. I want them to feel like you could walk into the scene, even though it's a made-up space. So I'll go on location and I'll take photo reference of the spaces that I want to draw, and I'll have that stored in there. If I want to have my characters doing a specific action that I'm not as comfortable drawing because I haven't drawn it yet, I'll put it on record and I'll act out the scene, and then I'll freeze frame a specific action. Maybe my hand is here instead of over here, and you can see how the muscle flexes differently. You can see how the fold of the clothes folds differently. So the recording aspect is a very powerful tool. And then for the writing, I have 3 more books that I want to produce in the next year. They've been written already, I just have to illustrate it, which is always the hardest part. But in writing it, I put on Google Docs and I speak into my mic. I dictate? I dictate the story, and then once I'm done or with whatever my thought was, I go back and I edit it, put periods, capitalize, fix the grammar. But that's an easier way than just typing out everything or having to type in this little phone, creating more carpal tunnel syndrome. It's easier to dictate it and then edit it from there. And then that allows us to then access that on any computer, whether it's on my phone, my home computer, my work computer at the job. And I'm utilizing their cloud and trying to work smarter, not harder.
So you use technology to help you with the writing process and the pre-visualization process and design process, because you feel like it translates better to your readers.
Yep. So what happens is when I'm able to take a photograph of a place that I don't get to sit there and draw, it allows me to then take that home and take my time with it and really dissect whether I want to include every element or just the most important elements. So photography is another art, and you can turn your photographs into that art, or you can just leave it alone and say, you know what, I don't need to draw that. That's as beautiful as it's going to get. I'm not going to make it better. So let me find something else. And then use that to then enhance it with your creation and your experience and your skills.
Nice.
That's good.
Anybody else have,
Nice.
like, on the reader experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, touching on what Wade said too, is like, a fundamental thing for me was the desire to tell stories that I haven't seen told yet. You know what I'm saying? A big thing for me is, to remix concepts that we think we're familiar with, right? If you guys had to check out my table downstairs, you might have seen like my pitch where, I explained how I remixed the concept of manga. I love manga, right? So, I carry some things over, such as reading right to left, keep that feel over, but from the first page, like I told some people, it establishes that this manga takes place in West Africa. So it allowed me to put like stuff that I love. So actual cultures who existed through history, I could put them in there. Weapons that's from around the world, I could put that in there. Where other nationalities traveled, I could put that in there. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing of telling my own kind of story. The second thing I would say, technology-wise, is that it allows me to connect to a larger audience, right? With things such as like Kickstarter and stuff like that, having funding available, right? And then the very last thing I'm gonna say is that, let's say in a case where someone, didn't want to illustrate a book. I like to suffer double as much, so I wrote the story and illustrated it. But some people are just writers, right? So we live in a time and age where you can easily find, people who contract and illustrate your books from things such as Fiverr. And that's a good way to get your first chapter out and just start getting your name out there. So.
I feel. I definitely, both coming from the perspective of somebody in the writing process and somebody who consumes, the breadth and availability of the different types of media when it comes to storytelling has been more robust now than it ever has before. And because of that, all the avenues you can take for interpreting your work and where you put it, it's even more so. So I'm currently in the middle of writing a webcomic, and I'm going to be putting that on Webtoons and working out doing it physically afterward. But this has been definitely an interesting experience, absorbing everything that I grew up on, being put into other things like let's say Marvel Unlimited, like their little web apps and stuff. Skybound has an online thing. DC Comics at one point had an online app, and there's Webtoons. There's stuff from manhwas and mangas. But it's sometimes you get a little decision paralysis trying to figure out the proper format you want your work. If you want to have it in more than one media, there's also animations, like you were saying. A lot of things that I've been seeing in a lot of creators that I'm friends with, they start out doing comics and realize, I want to take this to the next level. And doing animation feels like a natural next step. Some people, depending on what your tastes are, like live action, and a lot of comic book media has been transferred into that. But for me, for my stories, I'm writing a story of a superhero called Honeybee. And it's going to be focused around the development of somebody's adulthood, becoming, growing into themselves, finding their stride in what they do and who they are, and the adversities that come with adulthood and being a superhero. I like to deal with concepts of identity in my work and reflect that with things that people can see and say, hey, that looks like me, or that looks like someone I know. That's an experience I've experienced. That relatability is something that I love, and being able to find a media that complements that, that's accessible for people, has been the forefront of my mind. So now more than ever, a lot of my own comic friends, they are obsessed with compiling stuff digitally. So I'm like, all right, boom, that's gonna be the first thing I'm doing. So yeah, cool.
So I heard folks talk about Webtoons. If anybody here from in the audience, how many folks in the audience are familiar with the format of Webtoons? If you can somebody what's the benefit of Webtoons? What's really cool about the Webtoons format? See, this is audience participation.
Yeah, accessing it on your phone, I admit I'm really bad at buying any physical comics, but this it's so easy. Ads come up pretty much everywhere I am, so I can see the options, and then you just go through and scroll. And it also will recommend things a little bit. Like you'll like one thing and then the other stuff that you like it's easier. I don't have to hunt for different titles or different topics. It always is recommended.
So it's using the technology that exists, the social media user interface in comics, but also the thing about webtoons that many people know is that it's designed specifically for your phones. So you're not gonna read webtoons on another device. So that means when you're designing the webtoon, you design it to scroll up and down. It's not as dependent on panels. So it's really impacting the format, the way that we read manhwa, because I've been educated. And there's a difference between manhwa and manga.
Can you share that?
All right, so webtoons is definitely, I think, been a game changer. And in my courses, I've had people, I want to make a comic, and they show me what they really want to do. I'm like, that's a webtoon. Like, so you want to think about and if you're going to do a webtoon, are you designing it for a phone or are you designing it for print? And you can, of course, flip it. There's also social media. People talked about, social media being a way that you market, but I've seen people, some of the comics that I love, I only see them on social media, like cartoonists, right? If you're doing like that one panel, the slide mechanism is actually really well designed and translates well to that format, or Substack, right? So people, like maybe your world is open and you want to kind of see the process. You can subscribe to something like Substack or Patreon. I think the way we read comics has really changed, and I'm looking forward to see what type of emerging technologies change it further on. Some folks started talking about making, right? About using the technology in order to make, in your process to make the work clearer, more dynamic, more realistic, right? Or to say, all right, this is designed to go left to right instead of right to left. Well, you see the vision.
Yeah.
But like there are, I don't know, do y'all use Clip Studio or Procreate?
I'm jealous of all the people that do that.
Really?
And I say that because I don't have time. I'm working a full-time job teaching. I have my daughter who's 7 who demands a lot of my time. I have a wife, and then I have to draw. So and then find time to write. And I had more time, strangely enough, I had more time when I was on the train going from work to home. And then I have a 30,000 word book that's about to be set off this year. But those 30,000 words was done almost exclusively on the train. And now that I'm driving to work an hour every day instead of taking the train every day, I don't have that time now.
The time to do work digitally?
To be on, so to do that writing aspect, right?
Oh.
So then now to learn Clip Studio, to learn Procreate. Now I heard they're very intuitive, but I already have my Photoshop. I've already got my Intuos.
That was the next thing I was gonna say. Photoshop. That's
Yeah, but I got it now. So the Photoshop I have is not the subscription. I bought it back in 2012, and they gave it to teachers for $100. So I have an old program, outdated, but it gets me where I need to go.
Yeah.
As a person who teaches Photoshop, I would tell you Photoshop is way too loaded with way too much stuff you don't need, especially if you're making comics.
Yeah.
So your stripped down version might be okay, but
Yeah.
that's why I asked, because I think people have different things that work for them, right?
Yes.
Like my friend Joel, who's a big time comicer, he's a big nerd. Like, is really into Clip Studio, and many of my students are like, "We do Clip Studio." I'm like, I don't.
Like,
Fine, good for you. Go do it.
Yeah.
I don't. Does it? Do you think it matters?
absolutely not. I feel like, the whole expression, there's many ways to skin a cat. Sorry, it's time to myself. But honestly, legit, I can tell you, it does not matter the program you're using per se, because you can create a dope animation or whatever, with a pencil and paper, honestly, and a camera. All right, so for a little, just to show you that I'm not messing around with this, when I first started learning animation, I actually learned animation from watching the Dragon Ball Z VHS, and I just kept playing it and pausing it, playing it and pausing it, and then it hit me like, like lightning, like, oh, animation is just one drawing after the next. So I was still a kid, and I was like elementary, and I started messing around with Microsoft Paint. And if I know Microsoft Paint is nothing to write home about, right?
Yeah.
Super pixely, right?
It's the most
And-
bare.
It's awesome.
Right. So I'm saying, but you know, mixing that with Movie Maker at the time, you know what I'm saying, had a slow frame rate, but animation was definitely there. Fast forward now where there is a plethora of high quality free programs. And just for an example, I'm not gonna take too long on this. One thing that I found out that tripped me out, there's a program that you can download totally free. It's called OpenTunes. And if you guys are familiar with Princess Mononoke, they animated that entire movie using the free version of OpenTunes. They didn't even pay for it. Yeah, so honestly, I'm saying, you get out what you put in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the artwork is painted in gouache. yeah, you can animate it however you want.
Yeah.
But that Studio Ghibli is still Studio Ghibli.
Still gotta show some.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That's true. That's big facts. Open source, free technology, I think it has really revolutionized everything.
Absolutely. Honestly, I'm in agreement. Like, it doesn't matter what you got as long as that's good for you. I think the biggest lie that people who I've gotten the pleasure of meeting and like interacting and sharing like art tips with, they're always obsessed with, I need to do the thing that everyone else is doing. I need to be in the format that everyone else is in. I'm like, but what does that mean for you? What does that do for you and your work? Just because everyone is Procreate and it's nice doesn't mean it's convenient for you. Doesn't mean you have the time to be able to put down for that. Sometimes pen and paper is your best friend, and that's okay. You don't need to be digital like everyone else. That's what sets you apart from everybody else and what you're making. Honestly, like, if you take something and you find something and you hone that, whatever interface it is, that is your baby right there. And you can take that wherever you want to go. You just got to commit to it, and you just got to block out everyone else saying that you need to go a certain path.
Absolutely. I have down that under making things that we've already discussed, including iPads versus tablets. And I would say it's your preference. There are benefits, right? Like clearly, if you're working digitally, you're not using as much paper, right? You're not using as much ink. You know, you can do it at the beach. So there are benefits. Don't want to dismiss that.
Yeah.
And I have a 24-inch Cintiq.
Me too.
That I never use.
Oh, no, I love.
Because my iPad fits in my bag and it does the same thing.
It's gonna
You know, but there are things like in the technology, like perspective grids. Like my students were like, "Oh, I'm stuck at perspective." I'm like, "You're working on an iPad and it has a thing that will allow you to kind of create a grid, but it doesn't really matter if you don't understand perspective." You know, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking as you guys were talking about the different technologies and how when I was coming up, there was a lot of talk about how Photoshop was getting big in the 90s and how you still need to have the fundamentals down first before you start to use the technology.
Right.
And now that since I have the understanding of the fundamentals, then going into the technology is a lot easier. So like, oh, I can do the same brush stroke in Photoshop using this technique, or I can layer it this way. And then what's great about that is now once you learn the technology, then you can bring that back into your fine arts or your hand arts and actually utilize those skills that you've learned and say, now I can prepare it differently. And my path is different.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, to bring into the room like this, we're talking about technology, so you know where it's gonna go to the 800-pound elephant in the room is you talked about learning and fundamentals. So I gotta ask my esteemed panel about your opinions and hold your judgments.
Oh, man.
Don't be all judgy
Yeah, it's
Tikona.
controversial.
Listen,
Okay, go ahead.
Tikona. So, like,
The Drake question.
yeah. So what? And this is a safe space.
Yeah.
If you have a relationship with, an artificial intelligence, that's your business.
Say that.
What are your feelings about AI?
Honestly, so my feelings are strong, but over.
And I should say specifically AI used to create comics.
Yes, specifically that. So
being in the social media zeitgeist of artwork and artists, I've amassed a certain amount of like friends online. I've done a lot of like digital stuff and building an audience, especially on like TikTok, which that has its own problems, but a big rampant thing that has been going on is people using AI to like translate comic book styles, certain things, certain artists they want to emulate. And there's a lot of wonder and curiosity into like all the things that they can make and they can do and all the ideas that they have in their head that they want to bring to the forefront. But my issue isn't your curiosity, it's what's that at the cost of. A big issue with AI and machine learning is that it has to learn from something. And unfortunately, the thing that it learns from are other established artists, which means it takes all their work, amalgamates it, breaks it down, and then spits something out that's basically in the same style, sometimes even taking their signatures and reproducing them. And it's become a real big issue because now more and more people, even within the scope of comics and within things that are comic adjacent, like comic book movies, like with Marvel, they've done that for a couple of their things, like Secret Invasion. They did a whole opening sequence. That's just nothing but AI. Everybody hated it. They refused to watch the show because of it. But it's an issue where you can have a tool that can be seen as like, this is how you can develop and figure stuff out. But the way people are using it isn't exactly that. And that's where the issue like lies, where you take something that may help you understand a certain style or understand how to make something that you may not initially do and use that to go off of and figure out your own thing. That's fine on your own time. But what you can't do, or what you shouldn't do, is say, this is my work. And a lot of people are like, this thing that made stuff based on other people's work is now mine. And that's the issue.
I see a lot of nodding here, and I see some nodding out there. I'm interested in some other perspectives or validation of that perspective.
Yeah, so, okay, so, like when it first came out, you know what I'm saying, I had the harsh sentiment, like, oh, man, they're still not, you know, and which is, okay, let me get the first things first. Still is not cool, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Whenever someone gives you a disclaimer, you gotta tell people that you think stealing is not cool.
Okay.
It means that you might think stealing is
Now, I just heard South Park just now. Still just bad, heard.
So with that,
Just don't steal.
so with that out the way, I'm saying, I don't know if you guys ever have to, but you scroll on Instagram, you see that like, that's a little hard. You know what I'm saying? And you find out it's AI art, right? And you like, I'm saying, so.
That's heartbreaking.
Now here's the thing, right? So even before AI art came, my advice would be to say to somebody, okay, let's say that you like something, right? What I suggest is to ask yourself, okay, what do you like about it specifically? You know what I'm saying? Is it the way how the character is posed? Is it the way that they draw their eyes? Is it, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, is it the fashion sense, the line art? You know what I'm saying? Just make little notes, what you like, you feel me? And then after that, just put what you like away. Just put it away. It's like a good hour. You know what I'm saying? And just dwell on the things you took away from it. You know what I'm saying? Because now that you're not looking at it, you're not gonna make an exact copy. You're gonna say, okay, this is about vampires. I don't want to be about vampires, but I love how they draw the characters. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna, I like pirates. You know what I'm saying? So can I miss you, Sue? That's how you do it. You know what I'm saying? And then in a computerized way, that's what AI is doing. Saying, okay, this person uses color values, good. So you just gotta do what the computer doing better. Ultimately, do I think artists are gonna be totally like taking out jobs? Absolutely not, because you guys see how AI draw hands. But at the same time, we also know in the industry, especially when you talk animation, a lot of people are underpaid and stuff like that. So when it comes to like small things, like if it's like, okay, somebody's doing animation and they just need like a cloudy sky kind of thing. Okay, you know what I'm saying? No, if you want like AI generate that and then kind of tweak it or whatever, that's one thing. One last thing I'm gonna say with AI is that you can't own it. You can't copyright it. So if you're like, yeah, I took the prompt in, now this is mine, you're actually not. So thank you for creating that dope piece of art that a lot of people can enjoy. A lot of people can just take that, put it on a backpack, put it on a shirt or whatever, and you got nothing to say. So that's not actually the end all be all, you know what I'm saying, thing. So if you want to take that, like I said, just take find out what you like about it, link up with some actual artists, and just see if things are smooth. That's my piece on it.
For me with AI, there's two things. Back in the 80s, Biz Markie got sued. The rest in peace, Biz Markie.
Okay, thanks.
He was sampling art from other artists, as hip hop was doing in its early days, and he was the first one to have a big lawsuit against him for taking the music. Now, it was always used in homage, it was always used in respect, and we never said that was our creation. Whenever samples were taken, we always gave out the credit, but who still got sued? Cool. He pays the people that did their work because they did that work. They deserve their funds for what they did to contribute to that art. So now here we have this AI business where people are being stolen from, but yet nobody's talking about how to get them their royalties. The people that are using it, they act like it's theirs. They're not showing the respect, they're not showing the love of the original creators that they're taking from. So that's where I take the biggest issue with it. Because if you're gonna take from somebody, because that's the only way that AI works. It's the only way it works. Because it doesn't create on its own. You have to give, at least, at the very least, we got this from Ang Lee, we got this from this person, we got that from that person. At the very least, that needs to be said. You need to have like production credits.
Like open source.
Yep. Secondly, pay those artists. They deserve to be paid. How it happens, that's not for me to say, but it needs to happen. And the next thing I'm going to say about it is AI is a tool. Photoshop is a tool. Illustrator is a tool. Procreate is a tool. So if we utilize it as a tool with our own work, that to me is the best benefit, because then we can learn about ourselves in ways that we don't even know or understand about ourselves. So that could be something that could be used in that respect, and I've heard artists talk about that. And that to me, I give respect to those artists who only use it for themselves, within the context of their own art. But if you're using it as an open source material, where you can then see how it interprets fine art painters and commercial painters and this, that, and the third, if those people aren't getting their money for it, it's wrong. It's flat out wrong in my opinion.
Absolutely. Wow, see, sometimes it pays to just sit back and listen, because brilliant people will say brilliant things. I was sitting here thinking, somebody better say, talk about the fact that a hammer is a hammer and a phone is a phone, and a hammer's not gonna jump up and hammer nails, right?
That's right.
We often talk about AI as if it's the boogeyman, but we are jumping over the fact that it's a human being pushing buttons. And often it's just someone playing. Often it's a young artist dabbling and trying something out, and they get attention for something that's cool, and they keep doing it, because why wouldn't you, right? And then, like 2 years later, you've been doing this, you got really good at prompt crafting, and you can submit some work to DC. And like all these artists, right? Do you see, like DC just pulled down those 3 covers? There's a Supergirl cover.
Speak on it.
There was a Wonder
This
Woman cover.
Wonder Woman cover. They just pulled down 3 covers that were done by AI artists. So it's like, you can be mad at the microphone for picking up your voice, but it's really the sound guy back there that turned it on. You should be mad at him, right? No beef. But
I love that you said the prompt creator.
yeah, the prompt. But what I think is, and we're not gonna stay on AI for too long, but right, the thing is, knowing this, right, there are people out there now who are developing AI and AI companies and AI technologies who are purposefully trying to create, not just for illustration and comics, but they're trying to mainstream AI technology in different places for the purpose of replacing, right? They're specifically, and they're telling you that this is what they're doing. So if that's what we're concerned with, don't put the focus on the tool, put the focus on the people and why they are making these decisions.
And the laws that need to be put into place to protect.
Right, because just like DC had to take those covers down, and that, just like you said, the law will say, yeah, you don't own this. The judges will say that's not defensible as like your own property, intellectual property. Yeah, if we say we don't like this use of technology, right, then has a huge impact. And then
Exactly.
the practice of that probably also means that there are other things that we can say, hey, we don't like the way that you're using Oxycontin or things like that. But I'm not here to preach. This is really dope, and I want to move past AIs to something a little bit more down to earth, because these are all comics and animation professionals who are creating their own work. And like, I think of comics as a language. It's a thing that you should do just for fun. You should do it all the time. People draw all the time and paint all the time for pleasure, but oftentimes in comics, we only make comics that we want to print and put out in the world. So that's a little bit separate. But in terms of getting your work out in the world, like printing and publishing, we can start with printing. Does anybody have any experience with how technology is impacting your ability to get things printed specifically?
Yeah. Yeah. I really actually do have a specific something that I went through just last year. Actually, my initial printer, I loved them, man. They was like from my hometown, small team, like they understood the vision. They had a fire and it actually damaged their printer, right? And so I wasn't able to have like my full volumes made, only just a couple of skinnies and stuff. So, but ultimately, I'm like, I got these cons, man. Like this is affecting my bottom line for real. So, you know what I'm saying, I started going online, and you know, thanks to technology, I found some printers overseas, and sorry, I started printing overseas, man, and the quality, like, I work with them just as much as I would have worked with somebody, you know, right down the street from me. They sent me the proofs and everything, and you know, I actually got for a better deal, like shopping overseas. You know what I'm saying, like just shop online in general, should I say, right? Like, cause I try to do a thing like, oh yeah, I'm supporting my local, I'm supporting my town, and then you look at the like, okay, can you give me a quote real quick? Can you give me a quote real quick? Ask for quotes. You know what I'm saying? So use technology, because ultimately, you as a young business, you want to increase, you want to go somewhere. So it's like if you're selling for, I'm gonna say books again. If you're selling per book, and your profit margin is $2, and then he said, hey bro, I can put that, I got a press, bro, and I'm selling to you, and my profit margin is $10. You know what I'm saying? Like, what else is there to say? So just see what's out there.
That's
Right, man. They got phone apps. You use good phone apps like they call like marketplaces, and so like Alibaba or whatever.
Anybody else have experience with online printing? Like either foreign or domestic?
So for me, I didn't plan my stuff properly when I first started printing. So I wanted to make a book so bad, and I was like, oh, I like the way the horizontal format is, so I'm gonna make my story look like a horizontal format. I like the children's book format, so I'm gonna do that. And I made the art, made the story. I was ready to go. Then I looked for printers, and that was the mistake. Because now I'm having this horizontal format that I'm locked into, that I can't put into a vertical format. So when I looked for printers, they all quoted me the price that I want to sell the book at per unit.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm doing that, then I'm gonna have to charge double what I want to charge. No one's gonna want to buy my book. Oh, that's pretty, that's nice, good story, have a good day. They're not gonna spend that much money. So I was lucky enough to find Ingram Spark. They had a square format, so I was able to finagle my book into the square format. And then the next time I made my book, now I'm prepared, now I'm experienced, now I know I have knowledge that I didn't have before, and then formatted my art to fit that square format. But it's really important to do your research before you create your story. As you're creating your story, you gotta do that research, find out where you wanna get printed at, see who's done it already, see what their experience is, because they might have done it and they might have had a headache. It might have been, too much of a pain to talk to them in customer service, or getting the books printed properly, or when they got damaged when they shipped over to you, how do you get them to reimburse you, or how do you get them to send you more copies? So a lot of those things need to be understood before you go into your actual your project, with the idea of knowing what your project should be, and then you search around. Because I wanted to print in the States. I'm very big about doing what I say. I'm saying we need to take care of home, we gotta take care of home. So I can't go overseas unless I have to. So for my board book, again, the board book was astronomical in their pricing. It's like you're gonna again make me price out each book opposed to what I'm already trying to sell it for, and then I got to spend double. So I went to Print Ninja. And what's good about Print Ninja is they are printing in the States and in China, but I will only go to them for the board book, because then I'll go to Ingram Spark for everything else, because they're still here. Even though they have, you know, stuff in other countries, their home bases here, they employ Americans. And as much as, you know, seeing an American flag can be kind of traumatic, you know, I still live here. And I still want to make sure that where I'm at, my city, my people, we're good.
If I could just say one thing else, which even though I said the benefits of going international, it cannot be understated the benefit of knowing your printers locally.
Yeah.
Because if legit you say, oh, okay, I got approved to vend next week. China not as much as you pay. They're not getting your stickers in no time. But if you say, hey, Mark, I got a man, it's changing you. I'm saying something right now. Look, I got you print out off. You can come pick it. That's good. You know what I'm saying? If you say, oh man, you know, the format is off. I'm saying, you give me some tips on how to actually format my book. Great advice. Know what your book size. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that at first. I had to go through resizing hell. In my second book, that was like one of the second things I said, okay, my first book was like this, my second book is like this. As I'm finishing the script, I already know what book size, page size, because that's critically important. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
Yeah, it's definitely important. Prior to the pandemic, I was printing zines, and my biggest struggle was the only thing I had locally to me was like Staples and like my own school for printing. School printing, it's nice when you have access to it, but if the school does not maintain their own functions, then it's going to be difficult. But I definitely like resound with them and say like it's all about who you know too. If you build relationships with local printers, I've met a couple of folks through like nonprofit work that are definitely like constant go-tos when it comes to printing services. It's all the better, because then you could talk to them about like your vision, what you need. They can guide you on like what you need to do prior to you printing these out to make sure the sizing's correct. But it's definitely good that you also like take advice and like try to get as much input when you're going through the process of making stuff from other people that you know within the same like area. One of my best friends, Michael Talbot, I saw him like in real time churn out an entire graphic novel in less than a month. And he was telling me all about the struggles of printing, but now that he had experienced that, like he gives me just full lists of just the best places to print at, and like what to do if X, Y, and Z happens. So it's like all good about like making connections, figuring out who's local, what you know, and who can help you while you're printing.
Yeah. Experience and making relationships. Sounds like a good rule of thumb for life.
Yeah.
This is, once again, Jules, and we're at 1:44 and we're done at 2, so I want to make sure we save enough time for questions. Are there folks who have questions? Like I said, a couple of hands, one hand, two hands, three, okay. All right, so maybe we'll do one more kind of category, maybe we'll lump it in. So the lumped in category includes publishing, social media marketing, and micropayments services. So you talked about printing, and that's at the back end after you're making the book. And I like my online printer because if I they give me a template, say here are the bleeds, here's the trim, fine, pick your format, it's all kind of clean. And I'm sure a lot of other things do that. But also, if I send them something, it doesn't work, they'll call me and say, hey, Barrington, this is a little off, we can fix this, or is this what you meant? Like, wow, that's really nice. And once in the middle of that, they started having a conversation with me about the content of my book. I'm like, oh, you're human beings, this is awesome. But they also had on their site, they're linked to, like, you guys know Indie Planet? Anybody know Indie Planet? Yeah, you can skip the whole printing process. I can buy one, or I can buy 1,000, or people can kind of buy directly from Indie Planet after printing at Kablam. So do you all have anyone skipping printing altogether and just thinking about publishing completely digital?
For me, that's going to be where I'm starting.
Yeah.
You're starting there, and I see Javier is talking about nah.
I was saying, right now, I'm at a point where I'm comfortable overseeing, printing like inventory, like I like running the numbers. But it's something that I definitely did look into, like, print on demand, like things like, Amazon. So you definitely don't want to rule that out, right? So one great way is to offer ebooks, you know that, right? That does not really cost you, not do that way. And then you can also, like you were saying, set it up on a couple websites where people will just order directly from a third party, and then you get, your royalties from that. You know what I'm saying? It all depends on your level of involvement. If you have a team that would, won't mind sharing some of the burden, and then also, consider what would be the financial difference between you overseeing it and doing extra work as opposed to, XYZ gonna take a cut of it or whatnot. As far as marketing, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna leave time for everybody else to talk. Because for people who wanna do comic books and whatnot, we know things like Kickstarter and GoFundMe, right? You know what I'm saying? You probably gonna want to raise funds. You know what I'm saying? Doing everything yourself is gonna be tedious, to say the least. So, as far as you're gonna go that route, my tips for you is to take time aside to create 6 to 10 complete pages of your idea, right? So that way, when it comes time to publicly announce to everybody, okay, this is what I got done, they get a full-on grasp of what they're getting into. It's not just, okay, this is a story with a couple of thumbnails and hot characters looking at them. No, it's like this person is putting time in, you know what I'm saying? And that gives me confidence to want to back their project and their brand.
I feel like it's great to see the opportunities that we have now with Indiegogo, with Kickstarter, and those things for our larger projects. It's also great to see the social media aspect of Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Webtoons and all those things, because they give us access to our customers, our clients, our fans. So I think it boils down to what you're trying to do. If you're trying to get your name out there, social media is perfect for that. If you want to actually start making sales, you can still do that too, because some people have built up their fan base in that and then say, hey, now it's ready to print, you ready to buy this? Or you can go straight up into the comic realm. Again, I don't have time. So I'm always wanting to try to get it out to stores, or I want to get it out to the public's hands. So I think it just boils down to what journey you want to take and what is best for you. I think that's the greatest thing about this panel too, is there's a lot of options that we have now that weren't available 20 years ago. So now you can decide what route you want to take, and that's the best one for you. So walk that walk.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think for me, being in the space that I am online, growing your fan base, and doing that in tandem with working on a grassroots to help fund yourself is one of the best things. But the biggest thing is staying consistent with it, because as a fan base, they're going to want to keep consuming things, which is both a benefit and sometimes can be overwhelming when you're entirely online and you want to maintain an audience while maintaining your project and advertising that you want this to happen. But the more people you get to back you in other social media, the more you can say, hey, I have this link, I'm working on this project, can you support me? And you'll have just any amount of bodies that you need to be able to back you and support you in your projects. I'd say the issue is you, as somebody who, not doing anything, but I for a while I was really big on TikTok. I had 45,000 followers, relatively, but it was me just churning out things consistently on a schedule. Build your schedule, figure out what you want to advertise and what you want as a call to action for people, to give them a clear, concise way of saying, oh, if I do this thing, I can go here and support you. And it's just a nice cycle that can just keep going on the longer you do it. So I'd say consistently build a schedule, figure out the audience you want and who you want to target and where, and just redirecting them to the places that you need to go for support.
Excellent. So, thank you. Thank you all. I've been educated, and I thought that was my job. But this is my selfish reason for being an educator, is that I actually get to learn from, 15, 20, 30 people at a clip. And it's like, pay me, why don't you? Can we have a round of applause for our panelists? Panelists, can we have a round of applause for our very patient and intelligent audience? Now, did you notice how I just choreographed that moment and switched the time? And now the time is yours. If you have things that you'd like to say about technology or questions that you have about how technology impacts comics, I'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear from you. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Kieran.
Hi, Kieran.
I'm a graphic novelist too, and I am wondering if there are any technological tools that you use that maybe we haven't heard of, some trade secrets.
Ooh, trade secrets.
Tools that you really love.
Tools to do what in particular, if any?
I mean, any part of making comics. Like I've discovered Wayfair. I can build 3D model rooms with their furniture. That's a huge time saver for me.
Minecraft,
Yeah, and
SketchUp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So if you have any tips and tricks for technology, that was lucky here.
Yeah. Well, I got one for animators or who will want our animation, right? So animation can be done a couple ways. You guys know 3D animation, motion, stop motion, clay animation, or whatever. In terms of modern technology, there's a thing called puppet animation, which is awesome. Okay, because I come from traditional frame by frame where you draw every single. If I'm drawing somebody, say yo do that, you best believe I'm drawing every frame, right? But there's things now where similarly to 3D model where you give people bones and stuff. In a nutshell, you can take one image, you can say, okay, this is an elbow, this is a hand, and just move it with a couple of clicks, and the computer will actually generate the in-betweens. A lot of animation, a lot of shows now are made we call puppet animation. You can mix that with traditional 2D animation. There's a lot of things, but that's one little trick of the trade. As far as programs, I love Adobe. I'm pretty I don't just stick to one. I kind of I see the strengths of different programs, and when you combine it, you make something ridiculous.
Absolutely. I was trying to think about little tips and tricks, but I had transitioned from Adobe to Procreate just because I'm more mobile. But learning all the little tips and tricks of that application in particular has been a constantly evolving thing that I enjoy. I had learned about, of course, you can make grids and guides. You can do assistive things with your animation and also your illustration. You can lock things into the background, so you don't have to worry about the opacity and doing it in the wrong frame. But some things that I've been really getting into are resources for brushes, because sometimes the right brush is really hard to find. But a lot of people within the arts community online like to make their own. I know Kyle T. Webster or Weber is one of the most prolific guys I know that make free brushes online. But if you follow a good amount of artists Loish, I think on Twitter and Instagram, some of those big artists make their own brushes, and if you just check their little links, they're always good, real good finds. Afterward, I can if we exchange information, I can send you any brushes that I know. Because another thing that I like to do is when I meet up with artists, I send any resources I got from another artist to somebody else. The last person I met was in Louisiana, and he gave me just a full pack of palettes based on other artists that he's been inspired by and that he knew. And it's good to keep that on deck.
What just occurred? Thank you. what just occurred to me is this is a great way to use the Comics in Color Facebook page. You could populate all these tips and tricks up there for people to go and visit. This just came to me. I don't know where it was all this time. I will also add to that, like, I do a lot of 3D modeling just on my phone. So there are things like Forger or Nomad Sculpt, which are open source and free. And because I often have trouble keeping characters consistent because I draw fast, I work fast. But it's a good way to kind of have not only objects, but there's a base, if you're not great at sculpting, there's a base kind of head primitive there in both those applications. Or there's a full figure primitive in Forger. Just allows you to kind of have some general proportions. Other questions about technology and how technology is impacting comics or comments?
I have a question. What's a good way to promote my stuff? Or what hashtag or site should I put my videos of my art on to accumulate a following? Also, you said something about promoting those paintbrushes. Can you monetize that kind of stuff?
Yes, so.
Actually.
Yeah, a lot of those artists like sell packs. A lot of them actually do pay what you can, where it's like you can get an amount, but it's really to like serve the community. But if you would like to just sell a brush, you can go on places like Gumroad and just.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Gumroad.
Gumroad?
Yes, that's a really big place for people who like to make and sell brushes.
Okay. Thank you.
But specifically to your question, so what kind of like videos would you be making?
So, what I do like caricature art and stuff. So like my interaction with people, I do like around here in Boston area and stuff like that. So maybe my interaction with people, I like to post something and stuff. I was thinking about that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like content is different.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sitting in an area drawing people, I'm like moving around. You know what I'm saying? So,
I got you. I definitely think, at least from my experience, when it comes to like doing stuff, you're drawing, like you're doing fast-paced like stuff in the city.
Exactly.
Doing stuff on Instagram is really good. Actively use your stories. Your stories are your best friends because Instagram markets stories to people more than anything.
Yeah.
So
What I got from you, good, what I liked that you shared earlier was the consistency.
yeah, consistency.
Thank
You
you for
gotta,
that.
no problem. Just figure out your schedule. So if you're doing this X amount of times a week, find a specific time of the day to like say, hey, this is peak hours. This is when most people are looking at my page. Let me set everything I'm posting to this specific time. You can do that on Instagram. I think you can do that on Twitter. You can do that on, or X. You can do that on TikTok.
Now, is there like say in regards to TikTok, is there like a specific hashtag I should use, like hashtag art or something like that?
So that is something I actually had to learn. So the hashtags on TikTok are really fluid. So basically you get initial descriptors of what you have, like hashtag Black Illustrator, like artist wrote black, like things like
That's
that.
specific.
Yeah, but then you should look into seeing what's trending.
Yeah.
Because anything that's trending would immediately become boosted.
Okay.
So even if it's not related to your stuff, like say a Marvel movie's coming out, you get the name of the Marvel movie in there, that would boost your
That's
site.
brilliant.
Ooh.
I know, so now.
I'm sorry, I'm slipping out of my neutral stage because I only have a minute left, and I'm going to use my power to boo, 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 boo. That's Fugazi. And if you don't know why I said that, then boo you. And you sitting right beside your high school teacher who you called your mentor and telling people to be Fugazi. First get good, then get fast, and then get paid.
What I would say, bro, because you say you do stuff in public, right?
Excuse me?
Because you do content in public, right? Like,
Yes, sir.
that's the edge right there. Because not every creator does that. Some people exclusively work behind closed doors. So a popular thing, people reaction. You know what I'm saying? So if your video start off in the first 2 seconds, I see somebody say, "Oh, yo!"
Yeah.
Now I want to see what that is. You feel me?
Oh,
And what I will say about TikTok and Instagram, you saying official up. You know what I'm saying? Make it to where you can have a TikTok shop, where you can have an Instagram shop, because the artworks that you do, people say, yo, that's fire, bro. I will buy that. You say, okay, well, it's actually up in the shop, so put your money in my mouth back. Okay. So just, I'm saying, legitimize up. I know you're ending right now. One last thing I'm gonna say, last thing I'm gonna say is like legitimize up, bro. Like if you put a comic book together, you did so much work. Go that extra step, bro. Get that ISBN, that little barcode in the back, and then on top of that, spend extra. You know what I'm saying? Get that LCC, which is a library number, because if you want to be in libraries, you say, hey yo, they might want 12 copies. But if you don't got that LCCN number, you know what I'm saying, they don't want to go through the jumps and hoops of their management to get it on the shelf. So just make things easy for them. Figure out what's some things that's required of legitimate publicists, and then put yourself in that group, bro. That's all I would say.
Once again, thank you, Javier. Thank you all. It's been beautiful. It's been real. I have been Barrington, and I am out. And boom.